The deception of what is delusional, how is that created? It's something that is in contrary or different to what society has programmed us to believe. So what we are told is achievable or easy or accessible in life, that is our spectrum of what we think is possible. So if your goals aren't delusional to the average person, they're not big enough.
From making more in a month at 17 than the average person makes in a year, through to becoming a millionaire by 21 years old, today's guest has lived a life that many aspire to by 22.
Even guys that are extremely successful in a monetary sense, seeing their lack of fulfillment and their lack of just overall happiness in life and that void that's missing, and they fill that with all these things, hedonistic things, travel and girls and money and drinking and partying and clubs. When I saw that, I knew this can't be what my life's going to be. I wasn't blessed with success this early on for that to be my life in 15 years.
From sorting out his finances early to seeing what was in store for him if he continued on his trajectory, he took the time to look within and develop himself as a person to determine what he really wanted out of life.
If you're a giver and you're a person that wants to be of service and value is the core of everything you want to do in life, then money will come to you in big amounts when it's the right time. And also then as well, you will then realize what your purpose is. One of the goals that I have is to be the first ever billionaire that has documented his entire journey in the most transparent way.
I sat down with Qasim to understand how he got to where he is, the way he's grown to approach the world around him, and the plans he set out to achieve.
If you ask me who I want to be, there's no one. I just want to be me. You know, alhamdulillah, I feel blessed that I'm at that state right now.
But yeah, man, I mean, I first heard of you as a 17-year-old making 30K a month, had just reached the goal, was on a student interview. You know, you had set your goal to get to 10K before you were 18, and then you 3x that a couple months before that. We then had the pleasure to sit down and do a first one of these like 2 years ago at this point when you were 20. And now, man, super, super blessed and amazing to have you here at 22 to run it up again.
100%, bro. And like I said, if there was a list of, somebody's going to ask me, you know, who would you want to sit down in a podcast with? A list of 5 people in the world, you would 100% be on that list. Through our conversations already, we've not had loads and loads of time together, but the time we had together has been some of the most powerful conversations I've ever had with anybody. So yeah, I'm excited for this conversation, bro.
I love that, bro. I'm blessed to be able to do it.
100%.
But, you know, to start from the top and really like paint a picture of, you know, the guy who's sitting here in front of me. If you had to tell me who is Qasim, what does Qasim do?
Yeah.
What's your answer to that?
I'd say, so of course I'm 22 now, and I'm a man, I'm a vessel that God has now chosen to help change the world. And I feel like I'm a man on a mission now that knows his purpose. And I've been blessed with the experiences I've had in life. Obviously that started off when I was 17, when I first started my first ever business. Had my initial success when I was 18. Then from there, everything just kept compounding and skyrocketing in terms of the businesses that I was building, hitting my first 50K a month, 100K a month, experiencing life and, you know, pretty much live every lifestyle I could want to live, or anybody could want to live really, in terms of success, and living in Dubai and traveling around Europe in supercars and all that stuff. I did pretty much all of that, 18, 19 and 20. And I've also had, you know, a year or two of some very deep spiritual inner work being done. And it wasn't always, you know, up in terms of business. Nothing went down really, but it was never always up. I feel like I've also had a time in my life in the last couple of years where I've really, really focused on my inner world. And I feel like that prepared me for where I am now, to be able to be at the point now where I feel like I have my complete vision set in front of me for the next at least 10 years to get me to the point of at least being a billionaire and massively progressing down my mission and fulfilling my purpose.
Amazing. And, you know, we'll unpack a lot of what you said there. But, you know, the thing I really want to pick up on at the start is the fact that you were able to have this success early on, right? 17, 18, 19, you're already doing things that some people will never get to experience in their lives. So my question to you is, what do you think is the key 1 or 2 things that you had going for you in your youth that you either did or came naturally to you that helps explain the success you had as early as you did?
Yeah. So there's 2 main things I feel when I can look back. One is to do with me and one to do with my parents. So when it comes to me, ever since I can remember, honestly, bro, 13, 14, I always wanted to find a way to make money. And I never wanted to just be normal in that sense, where I've just like, you know, not care about money, not care about doing something and just play Xbox my whole life and go to university when that comes in 5 years' time when I was 13. I remember asking my dad when I was like 12, 13, how can I start doing like paper runs? I was like, how can I make some money in some way? Like asking, like, how can I get a job anywhere? It's like no one was going to hire you when you're 13. And then eventually, maybe like a year later, when I was like 14, I remember I started selling sweets in school. So I would go every Sunday at 4 a.m. To this market where I grew up in Glasgow. I would find these like, trucks selling like, sweets they've imported. I would buy like a couple of boxes of them for like £20, put them in my bag. And then in school, break time, lunchtime, I'd be selling them, running it up. So people would come to the classroom that I was at. They'd be buying from me. And probably total lifetime revenue I made of that business before it got shut down, before everybody started to bully me, because I got bullied hard for that, by the guys in my year. So eventually, when it got shut down, I think maybe total I probably made £600.
Not bad.
But yeah, so that was my first ever like attempt at making money, which was obviously I really enjoyed it when I was doing it. I loved it. That was like, for me, I've never enjoyed school. I've never really liked any subject. If you're going to ask me, what did you enjoy most about school? There's nothing. It was actually that, just selling the sweets. That was the thing that I enjoyed the most about that whole experience of school. And when it comes to like, I always never really aligned with how we were being taught and what our lives were in terms of, all we're doing, trying to do is study for these exams. And I realized early on, all these were just memorization tests and nothing past that. I never enjoyed any of the subjects, anything that I was getting taught. And I always knew that this is not what I'm going to be doing in life. I knew that university was not the way I wanted to go. And eventually I did come to the point of realizing that, obviously going through the experience of, applying to university, I realized that, what I thought life may have had to be in terms of having a career, going to university, I initially thought it was going to be in computing science just for the sake of making a lot more money in that field than anything else. I didn't even realize that was just a lie. What I thought my career would be. I did realize that talking to some people who had been working as a software engineer for like 25 years, they said to me, yeah, you don't really move around anywhere in terms of, you don't progress in your career. You just kind of stay in the same place. Maybe your salary gets increased by 10K after 10 or 15 years, but that's really it. So that for me, I always kind of had that contrarian mindset or perception towards school and the system and the life we were prescribed. I guess we were told by society, even my parents. And when it comes to my parents, I feel like I wasn't really taught anything directly by my parents, like lessons directly by my father. But I think just the biggest lesson that he gave me was just, I saw him never giving up and always, he never had a job. So yeah, I've never seen him with a job, and neither my mother either. So I was lucky in that sense where I never felt like that was my progression. That was where I should be going. That's what I want to be like them. When I looked at my dad, although he never was blessed to find that, extreme success with anything he was doing, any business that he started or deal that he was trying to make happen, I did see him, go to China for 6 months for, I don't know what he was doing there, but he was doing something, travel for a long time just to try to figure something out, make a deal happen or import something. I don't know what it was he was planning to do. But because I saw all of that, from my childhood, even though we were struggling, I always knew that, why should I ever have a job? And obviously this is why I've never had a job in my life, because I saw my dad being like that. And I was like, if he's like that, then I don't really feel like I want to have a job either, in that sense. So, and also that played a big part in me actually starting and like having that drive to start when I was 17. I feel like looking back, a big part of that was seeing my dad, trying for so many years, and then really realizing that we were actually struggling financially quite a lot, because we kind of had to leave our house a couple of times and move houses. And when I saw that, I was like, I've seen you try for so many years now, but I know I can do it. So let me just take care of it for you. You can kind of relax. You can rest. Let me build a business and take care of the family. That was one of the biggest drives that actually pushed me to actually really want to start when I was 17.
I think that's beautiful, man. Two different types of reflections, right? The first on, starting early and being able to see that desire to make something happen, right? It's
Mm.
like, yes, you're chasing the money, but you're also chasing the thrill of the sale. You're
Yeah.
chasing being able to provide value. You're chasing, getting in the way of the money flow
Yeah.
from a super young age. And then with your parents as well, seeing the example, right? And sometimes, you mentioned not being taught anything directly, but it's like the lessons come
Mm.
between the lines,
Yeah, exactly.
right? But even that takes us to starting,
Yeah.
because 17, you're looking for ways to make money online. I'm assuming you go through the YouTube rabbit hole of
Mhm.
all these different business models that you can start out. What made you land on agency?
So obviously, I was searching on YouTube every day for months. I think when I turned 17, December 2019, from that day onwards, I was on YouTube every single day in my room, just searching on YouTube, watching every single video about every single business model online, how to make money online, how to start a business, how to get rich, all those sorts of terms on YouTube. And yeah, months of doing that, I looked into every business model that existed, but I never really aligned with stuff like Amazon FBA or drop shipping or trading, because a big thing for me as well is that I always knew that I wanted to be respected as like a business owner. I wanted to be like a big businessman. That's what I thought when I was 17. So I never thought that a business like drop shipping or trading would ever get me there. I wanted to be able to tell people what I do and for them to respect that. And for me to also be proud of what I'm doing too. So the agency, the way that I was sold it anyway, by the guys that were kind of pushing it the most back then, I was sold that it was a business that you don't need any money to start, which obviously I didn't have any money anyway. I never got like Christmas money or birthday money when I was young. So I had literally zero in the bank account. So obviously for me, investing was not even an option. So for me, it was a business where didn't need any money, didn't need to be good at anything, just needed to kind of follow the process, find somebody like a freelancer to fulfill the service, and then yeah, you're gonna make money. So I was like, this is perfect. I actually remember the feeling and the thoughts I was having when that happened for me. When I actually watched that main video that a guy put out, breaking down the business model, and then realized it was actually something I could do. For the first time, I felt so excited. And I remember telling my parents about that, and then straight away they just shut it down. They was like, "This is a scam," wherever else. And yeah, but that didn't push me away from it. I feel like I didn't let anybody else's opinions really like stop me. Obviously, I also went to my friends as well, told them, there's a business you can start, and the only response was, why would a 17, why would a business owner pay a 17-year-old anything? You're never going to get any customers or clients. But even that, from that day onward, I just didn't tell anybody anything. So I just kept it to myself, and I just kept going. I didn't get started quick. It took me a few months, but those few months, I just learned everything about the business model, learned everything about what I could on YouTube, and I eventually got started. It was a slow start, but when it really kicked in terms of me doing the work that was actually needed to be done, not just like some random stuff like my website or thinking of my offer. When I actually did the work to get clients and do it properly, I figured out how I could do it, how I could like do it in a way that actually got me the results I wanted to have, like sending clients. Obviously, what I was being taught on YouTube wasn't really working at all. But through doing that and trying that for months, I was quite pessimistic for a couple of months, to be honest. I thought I was going to quit. But I luckily came across a guy that became a big brother of mine on Facebook, in a Facebook group. And he said to me, he was kind of in the position that I would want to be in when it comes to my agency, doing quite well. He was like mid-20s, early 20s. And he said to me, bro, don't give up. Like, your goal is 10K a month by when you turn 18, you'll hit that a couple months before that at least. And I was like, damn, for the first time in my life, obviously, I didn't tell anybody about my business other than these guys in the Facebook group. So they were the only ones in the world that actually knew that I was running a business or starting a business. So to have that, I guess, sense of accountability where this guy is telling me that I can do this, and he's saying to me, yeah, just report back to me, bro, like every couple of weeks, let me know how you're getting on the group calls that they had in that free community. I felt like I had somebody to talk to, at least to begin with, and that gave me that sense of accountability to where I then put in the work to figure it out. And as soon as I did that, within a couple of months, that's when I hit my first 10K month. So it was like maybe 4 months, 3 months, 4 months before my actual birthday or before my actual goal. And there was also a couple of things that I had to let go of. One of the massive things that I remember was the importance that I put on this 10K month number. There were obviously a lot of guys who start online businesses, that's their main number they want to hit. Obviously, that was the same as me. And I put so much importance around 10K a month that I had a fear unknowingly about the number. And when I understood that and learned that and realized that and then let go of it, and I cared more about the inputs that I was putting in rather than the output, that's when everything changed, really. It was actually really quick, to be honest. Within like a couple of months, I looked at my bank account one time and I was like, yeah, 10K is coming from this month. So yeah, that's when it all started.
A couple different directions to take there. But I guess first one to dig into is like, people of your age back then, from 16 to, I mean, all the way through their 20s, some even in their 30s, will try to start agencies. Naturally, the vast majority will never
Mm.
even, make more than a couple thousand. Why do you think you as a 17-year-old were able to have the success in that business model in particular?
I feel it because it was one that wasn't dependent on something. It was dependent on you, really. That's all it was. The only dependency or reliance that the business model had to do well was you. The business was you. And I feel like with stuff like drop shipping and other businesses like that, it's dependent on the platforms a lot. So if you get, for example, banned on something like a Facebook account, then you're finished. But for me, the agency stuff wasn't really dependent on anything. It was really just the work you put in. And obviously as well, I was lucky that I realized the way that the gurus or people on YouTube were teaching us to do the business model in terms of exactly how to do outreach and sign clients, just wasn't working. And I never like just trust. I stopped trusting them. If that makes sense. I stopped looking at what they were doing and like try to just kept doing it. I was like, okay, I'm gonna figure it out for myself how I can sign clients. And luckily, I did come across a way that I could do it, and it worked really well back then. I just kept rinsing every single day. All my work every single day was just doing that, doing that, doing that. And also, like my routine was extremely dialed. Like when I was 17 in high school, I was waking up for like 6 a.m., going to the gym, walking to the gym before school when it was freezing cold, going to the gym for like an hour till 7. Then, like, I was in the pure gym in Scotland. Then having a shower, walking to school, doing school. And I'd perceive my days as like I'd have 2 days in one. So I'd have my first day in school, just get it done. I didn't care about school at all. I hated it. Then when I finished school at 4 p.m., I'd come back home and like restart my day. I have like another 5, 6 hours to live my day. So I'd have a cold shower again and like maybe like a small workout, and then start my work. And my work, to be honest, just consisted when I was actually doing what needs to be done and not like procrastinating. I was just doing the outreach every single day in the way that I found out to do it. And it just eventually, started kicking in. I got my first client for £400, next one for 1K, next one for 5K. It just kept compounding to where I had like maybe, I don't know, 6, 7, 8 clients, and I was at 10K a month.
And, on the other end of the spectrum, now that you're a few years down the line with that, you still run an agency.
Mm,
You now teach people how to run agencies as well.
yeah.
As an add-on to that, you've also, started making money from info products and, selling information, selling knowledge, selling accountability, as well as through trading and different means and getting into crypto. So what is it that keeps you running your agency day to day?
So this is something that I also, not in the beginning, but after I kind of hit 10K a month, when I went to Dubai for the first time. Obviously, my goal from the beginning was always I wanted to become a millionaire. It wasn't obviously my like main target, but I always knew in the back of my mind, I didn't just want to make some money. I wanted to be extremely successful. So when I went to Dubai and I was obviously making like 10, 15K a month, and I was obviously hanging around a lot of these guys that were, multimillionaires, guys that were kind of in their 20s, also in their 30s, extremely successful. And also one of the main guys, one of my good friends, I saw him for the first time and I met him, and he was maybe a year and a half older than me, and he was already a multimillionaire through crypto. And I was thinking, like, if this guy who's like a year and a half older than me is a multimillionaire, then why can I not be one? Like what is stopping me from being one? And I knew that this business model that I was being taught in the way that I was being taught it, SMA in the sense of, you provide a very basic service to a local business, for example, that doesn't know anything about social media, like Facebook ads, lead generation, or social media management, like a very low level service you can just delegate to like a freelancer and take a profit on top of that. That was never going to get me to anywhere near becoming a millionaire. So that's when I kind of quit. I guess I actually did just quit that what I was doing there. I just kind of shut it all down because I made so much money through crypto then as well in late 2020 and 2021. To where like I was making way more from crypto than I was from the agency, to be honest. But then I also knew that it wasn't just about money for me. I actually really wanted to progress down a vision. I wanted to actually build big businesses that I was proud of, that were like doing big things in the world. So when I had that kind of realization and that really like became the most important thing to me, then I thought, okay, how can I actually progress down this vision? And I remember since I was 17, I actually remember looking at this article that talked about how e-commerce like has grown, I don't know, 400%, some number like that, during the lockdown and all the stuff that was going on in the economy back then. And I was thinking, obviously, you're being taught by the YouTubers and being told that, everyone should be doing, working with local businesses and med spas and real estate, agents and all these kind of, as the kind of niches you go for as an agency. But I never aligned with that, even though I was doing that in the beginning. I never aligned with it. I was like, why am I working with these companies? Never enjoyed it. Never saw any long-term vision in any of this. So I remember looking back, I was like, that was actually always something I wanted to do. My kind of dream that I wanted to build a massive e-com brand one day, not a drop shipping store, not Amazon FBA, but like a real brand that a lot of people use around the world, like with a product that actually benefits people's lives. So I wanted to kind of be in the health space, somewhere in that space. And when I remembered that, I was like, okay, that's my path. I know I want to get into e-commerce, not in a small way, but in a massive way. Like I want to build a massive $100 million, maybe even $1 billion brand one day. And when I thought of that, I was thinking, how do I actually break into this industry? How do I get there? And obviously, I did have trust in the agency model, just not the way that I was taught. So I stopped watching any of the YouTubers. Actually, didn't watch anybody on YouTube at that time, especially the guys that were like teaching agency stuff. And I just came up with a plan through doing research about kind of like like larger businesses, like reading books and articles from like McKinsey and consulting firms and management firms and all this kind of stuff, and how they position their offers, how they do what they do. I was like, okay, why don't I, in a sense, partner or work long term with the same type of company that I would want to build in the future? So I'm actually getting paid to learn everything that I would want to learn to then build my own company. And also as well, when it came to one of my financial goals was that I wanted to hit 50K per month in profit in that same year. Because obviously I was making around 10, 15, 20 in profit. And I was thinking like, this is good, obviously, but I knew that now I wanted to become a multimillionaire, not in like 5, 10 years, but soon, really soon. So how do I do that? I need to get to at least 50K per month in profit soon. And within the same year that I had this thought. And how do I do that? I need to find a way to charge a lot more than $500, 1K, 1.5K a month. So then I need to find a way to be of value enough to these companies that I would want to build in the future to where they would want to pay me that. Obviously, as a beginner, I had no case studies, no testimonials, no results to show. So I was like, how can I find a way to be valuable enough to them to where I can make that happen? And they'd want to pay me 5, 10K a month. And through obviously some trial and error and some research and some work, not really in the agency space, but more like overall business, how to position offers, how to the psychology of offers and all that kind of stuff. And also then as well, I looked into what was the most in-demand kind of method of growth in e-commerce. What do brands really need to do right now? And obviously I saw that it was becoming content creators, using content on ads, like video content, they call UGC. And then that's what, okay, this is my offer. This is like what I have to then offer to brands. And then it came together, I put it all together, made this doc that I then built out. This is like what we do for brands. And the way that I built it, I was looking at, books like Alex Hormozi's $100 million offers and understanding how to position offers and the psychology of selling. And that's how I built the whole doc together. I didn't have any mentors at this point either. So like I wasn't asking anybody for help. And then, yeah, at some point, I did my outreach in a way that I realized this is the best way to do it. The method that I even still use to this day and teach all the people that I teach. And it works really well for them. The whole idea of it is the approach you're not trying to sell, you're being of value. You're approaching them with a value first kind of a mindset where like you want to give them something first and then they want to come to you themselves without you needing to like ask them for anything. And then when you jump on a call with them, you walk them through this proposal doc and that proposal doc kind of handles all the sales to it. You don't have to sell them at all. There's no like sales experience needed. And when I tried it for the first time, within around 5 weeks or so of doing the outreach, I also delegated it to a VA because I also knew myself, I didn't want to be the one sitting there messaging every single day or sending videos like Loom videos or anything like that or emailing. I was like, okay, let me build the system. I thought I learned a lot about systems and how SOPs work and how building systems kind of works in businesses. And then I built the system of how outreach is going to work for my agency, my new agency. And then I got a virtual assistant from the Philippines, then trained them on how the system works in terms of sourcing leads, meshing them, doing the whole process. And then, yeah, so from day one, they were doing everything for me. I stopped doing any outreach myself. And then around the 5th week or so, I got 5 calls booked in for the following week. And I managed to close all 5 of them. And I remember my first ever call, I actually had the recording of it as well, that I showed to my mentees to show them that it's actually not as hard as they think. And then on that call, yeah, it was like maybe a brand making around 100K a month, 50K a month. Straight away, they just said, yeah, that sounds good. Let's get going. This is my first ever call with a client on that caliber. The rest of my calls before that were just with like low-level local businesses. That was just, it was just nothing really special at all. But this call was like obviously with an extremely successful brand owner, and he, the way that I built this proposal doc actually just worked in the first time. It would just work straight away. And the 5K a month, I was scared about saying that number. Obviously, I'd never even charged anywhere near that before. The max that I charged maybe like 2K a month. So this 5K a month number, I was scared to actually say that, but then I forgot that it was there on the end of the proposal, the template that I made of this doc, and I was obviously sharing my screen, and he just saw that, and he was like, "Oh yeah, that sounds pretty good." I was like, yeah, I was like, "Yo, this is crazy." So yeah, by the end of that call, they emailed me back, and then straight away after the call, said, "Is there anything else that I'm missing? Because I'd really like to get started like today." And then yeah, sent them over the Stripe, and it's paid 5K a month. That was the first ever 5K a month client I got, and then I closed the rest of the 4 of them that week as well, for around 5 to 10K per month. And then yeah, I was on 25K a month straight away within that kind of same month that I started.
And this innovation of the agency model that you've done, you now teach to other people.
Yeah.
So I want to dig into especially the naming you gave each, because I think there's stuff to dig into there. But in general, I mean, what do you call the model that you teach, and what makes it unique from other models and what other people teach?
Yeah. So it's called a growth partner agency, right? And each word has a significance and it has like a real meaning. So growth means that what you are doing, your service, as you would call it, is you help companies grow through your chosen method of growth. And that method of growth should be the most in-demand method of growth in that industry. So for example, with e-commerce brands, that method of growth right now is working with creators and influencers, gets them to kind of drive revenue through their or pages already as affiliates, then producing something called UGC, user-generated content, which is what you use on their ads, and then running that content as ads on Facebook and TikTok as well. Like that as a brand right now, no matter what brand you are, that is the way you want, that is the way you know you have to grow. And it's kind of the most in demand and in like kind of least supply. So there's no agencies or like freelancers that can provide that. And even when it comes to a brand trying to hire a team to do that, it's very hard. There's no one that, like, no employee that can do that right now. So that's what growth means when it comes to partner. Partner means that you partner with these companies on a long-term basis. And also as well, when it comes to those companies, it was only the philosophy of why I built this business model for myself was to only work with the highest quality of companies or clients in the highest quality industries in the world, or the biggest industries in the world. So for me, these are three industries. So e-commerce is the one that I chose for my vision. Info products is the second one that I would recommend you choose. And the third one is SaaS and apps as well. And the reasons to why these industries are so important is like I would never let anybody start a growth planner agency for like local businesses or med spas or gyms or restaurants, is because the whole idea of the business model as a whole is this is a stepping stone business to progressing down a vision to become a multimillionaire, maybe even billionaire, like I have the vision for. So the whole idea of it is this is the vehicle you're going to use to break into that industry and then get to the point where you can either take two routes. So I'm taking both of these routes in e-commerce. So the first route is, of course, build your own e-commerce brand, and you'll have everything you need. You have yourself, the team that you've built, like a real specialized team that you've built and trained. You have the connections and the partnerships that you have, everything, and also the money as well that you made 50K a month at least profit, to then invest into building your own brand and make it a massive success really quickly. And the other route that I'm taking as well is to evolve the agency into more of a growth equity firm. So that turns it into more, you start to invest into brands and take equity in brands. And obviously, when you read books like the Almanac of Naval Ravikant, which is what I did when I was 18, which was a big, played a big factor into me building this business model for myself, was I realized I had to figure out a way to build massive wealth. And the way that he said in that book to build massive wealth was to have equity in loads of companies, not just like your one or two businesses. So that was for me, okay, how can I do that? It was through obviously building this agency first, having the case studies, building the team, like real assets, like a real business with real foundations, providing real value. And then from there, you can start investing into brands as well, having equity in tens of brands, hundreds of brands that your team is growing. And then, that's what then you can build massive wealth with. So that's what a partner means. And then agency, what that means is that you're still providing multiple services, multiple offers. You have multiple offerings you sell to companies. You don't just have one offer that you sell. The reason for that is to have kind of multiple forms of cash flow coming in every single month that are easy to fulfill, harder to fulfill, depending on like, what it is you're selling. And also as well, you have a team that you built that actually does the day-to-day work for you. So you're not like a glorified, employee or freelancer. You don't just work with like, VAs or freelancers that you outsource things to. Like you're building a real team that you're proud of, that is your team, that works with you for a long time. So that to be in the business model, that's kind of the overview of each word.
And, the way you teach it, you have the winner's circle, you have unlock your potential. I'll leave the links for both, but if you could just explain, because I want to dig into the names of both. But if you could just explain what each one is.
Yeah. So the education company as a whole, which is something that I have a massive vision for, Pasha's online stuff. I've called it unlockyourpotential.io. And the idea of that, it came to me one day. I just realized, what would I want to call my education company, the company that I use as a vehicle to, change people's lives and to build almost this kind of, this army, I guess, of people that are fulfilling their purposes in the world and unlocking their potential. And obviously I could choose loads of different names, but I felt for me, unlock your potential was the most clear. And like, that is what we do. We help, the company and the products we have in the company and what I built helps people unlock their potential. Obviously, if, as a human, to be honest, as a whole, obviously that starts as an entrepreneur and becoming an entrepreneur, unlocking your potential as an entrepreneur. But then it just moves on to overall unlock your potential that you've been given by God in this life. So that's the whole idea of the name of the company. Of course, it's starting off now is more online stuff with me, of course, like teaching you through programs and the winner circle, which is the main thing that I guess I get beginners to be a part of. And the winner circle, the reason I called it that was that I didn't want it to be like an agency program. That was the last thing I wanted it to be. I really wanted it to be like everything I could have dreamt of having when I first started out, and that's why I call it the winner circle, because the idea is you're part of this circle that I've built of people that want to win initially in life. Not just in one aspect of life of their business, but every aspect of life. And so that's why it took me like almost a year to build all the courses that I put inside of there and that ecosystem that I built. And the idea is that I built a course that kind of goes through everything in terms of how I become who I become in life and how I've transformed every aspect of my life. So it starts off, of course, with the main one is the building a growth planner agency, and I guess understanding business the way that I understand it. And also then I have courses on mindset, performance, spirituality, health and physique, every aspect of life that I think is needed to learn to become the best version of yourself and to win in life. And also as well, those guys have access to me through the calls I do with them, which I love doing. It's probably some of the most fulfilling stuff that I do. Talking to them and giving them advice and seeing them grow and just change life overall. And also as well, they obviously get access to me and also each other. So it's a very important thing for me that I call it the winner circle, because this is really like the circle that you need. This is like no matter where you are in the world, no matter if you have no friends in life, the same way that I had no friends in life when I was first starting out, this is like your circle of winners that don't let you lose, if that makes sense. So if you connect with them, which obviously everyone does, I keep it very tight knit, then they connect with each other personally. They become best friends. I mean, later on today, meeting a few of them and them together become best friends. Are coming down together to London to see me. So the idea is that it's not just about me. You know, obviously you will have access to me, but these guys you're going to be talking to and connecting with, they themselves are going to be a massive part of your life. They'll probably be your brothers for life. And obviously a few of them are obviously further along down the journey than you are, and they're going to help you out. With nothing, not asking for nothing in return. Jumping on call with you every single day, helping you, practicing with you, giving you their insights. And that was the whole vision as to why I created it. And the mission behind it was to create this, you could call it army, or just like a collective of entrepreneurs, or people that are fulfilling their purposes, that we can then together really change the world. Not just me by myself. Like you said, it's a collaboration, this purpose that I have. So that's the whole idea of it. And the mission is to give these guys everything they need, in every aspect: the information, the community, the access to me, the mentorship, to where they can obviously really progress down this path of unlocking their potential, then fulfilling their purpose in the world as quick as possible, the same way that I have.
I love that, man. And we'll include the links in the description as well, so people can check it out. Two things that I want to bring up just on what you said. So the first is potential, right? And unlocking your potential, and this notion of like, thinking, okay, I'm currently here. This is where I know that I can get to. How do I take those steps? So before anything, what does unlocking your potential mean to you on a personal level?
So I believe potential, when I perceive potential, it's in two ways. So the first way is that I believe everyone has a plan written for them by God before they were born. So in a sense, that is your potential. Like what you were created to do in this world. That is what I perceive your potential is decided by God. So it's not like everyone needs to become a billionaire. Everyone needs to reach massive success in a monetary sense. Not everyone is chosen for that. So that's why it's also really important. It's like it's very much to do with your potential and what you perceive you want to do. And obviously that's what's given to you by God. Like God is almost telling you throughout your journey, as you experience stuff, as you build your businesses, as you have success, you'll then come to the realization, what do I want out of life? And that is almost what you want and dream about, is what God is telling you are meant to have. So that's the most important one. But then it comes to also as well. It's not about straight away, but after you go through those evolutions of missions, for yourself and your family. When you completed those, you then come to the point. Okay, what do I do now? Like after I built my agency, for example, after I've become a multimillionaire, what happens now? And that is when you come to the point of like realizing what your purpose is in this world, what your mission is in this world, and all that. Obviously, that mission is far bigger than you. That's far bigger than anybody, any one person. And that is like what you dedicate your life to, and nothing else. Even something as noble or as beautiful as giving, being the best father or being the best husband or building a family and giving them the life that you want them to have. Even that is not as big as your mission or as important as your mission. And what I believe is that all those things, success, anything in the world you could want, even something as nice and beautiful as retiring your parents, or giving your kids the life that you never thought they could have. Even that is a consequence or a byproduct of you fulfilling your mission as a man. And that's what I feel like, it's those two things: the plan that God has given you, and obviously at some point in that plan, you will then realize your purpose and your mission. And then it's about how you actually fulfill that mission, and actually having the tools and the access to people that inspire you and everything you will need, to be honest, just to be able to actually realize what that is first. Obviously, that in itself, realizing it is a big thing, because you have to do a lot of internal work to eventually realize it. Because when you're in a point where like you're in a suffering state in a sense overall, where like you're always in need, you're always like greedy, you're always like, I need this and I need that, and you're not always really happy, and you have a lot of traumas holding you back, unresolved issues from your childhood. Those things don't allow you to like have almost like doesn't allow you for the door to be open. For God to then almost like download that information into you and give you that realization. And that's what I did the last couple of years. A lot of that internal work, I went through a lot of what people would perceive as could turn me into someone that's depressed, very traumatized. But I was lucky enough to be in the right place and have the right, I guess, experiences that allowed me to work past that stuff and realize all that was holding me back. And I've done the inner work, and that only then, only after all that stuff, was the realization of what my purpose was. That's when it was given to me. So yeah, it's a combination of business and your inner world, your inner and external world together. That's what what potential means to me.
Yeah, man, I think, two different things within there to take it. Just lastly, there at the end, you were speaking about the the inner work you've done,
Mm.
right? And I think especially the last time I saw you when we recorded last time, that's like the biggest shift I realized, It's like this guy that, I knew of as a kid
Mhm.
that I had seen like growing up a bit. And it's like, okay, I can tell that he's actually like working on himself. And this last time I've seen you, like now, like the work you've put in can shine through by some of the things you speak about, by the way that you present yourself, by the things you aim for. I can see that shining through. And even, a question for you very quick. Do you equate mission with purpose? Is that kind of the same thing?
Yeah, I feel like you can have several missions, but you have one main purpose. Does that make sense? So I have several missions. Obviously, the main mission is the most important one, but I also have other missions that are kind of aligned with that, just kind of like offshoots, I guess. But your purpose is your truest purpose. That's like what you want to achieve. That's like what you're here to do, and your mission should be complete as a byproduct of that. That makes sense.
So, in one of the videos you put out that I've watched, you said that your mission was to create a paradigm shift in the world where everyone realizes and fulfills their true purpose and the plan written for them by God, where that purpose is for them to serve humanity, which is God's creation, in a way that they've been chosen to.
Yeah.
So, I guess, double question to start with on that. First, why do you think that's your mission? And secondly, what does it mean to you?
In terms of why that's the mission, I feel it's come from my experiences, going through my journey as an entrepreneur, as a man in general. It didn't all come to me at once. It came to me kind of in pieces, but then eventually it all, in terms of like the way that I said that line, for example, all came to me at once in one day. And I feel like it came through, obviously, like we said, I went through the evolutions of missions that a man would have: take care of himself, take care of his family, take care of his future family. And when all that was kind of out of the way for me, I then went through in the last couple of years a lot of internal work. So I went through some experiences that people, could have been depressed, could have caused people to be depressed their whole life. And I'm lucky that I was in the right environments while I was going through those things to have access to the tools and maybe even the people as well that allowed me to work through that and do almost like the work that cleans it all up and I kind of clean up all the traumas and realize what they are and go through them. And when I went through all that work, eventually, I realized that what makes me most fulfilled in life in terms of when I was doing, business and overall running my businesses that I had. And it wasn't really, obviously, building the businesses in terms of my agencies and everything else that I'm doing, making money in general, that never made me fulfilled, like really that fulfilled. But what did was when I was helping people and when I was giving them advice and when I was on call with them and seeing them grow, I wouldn't even mind, being unpaid and doing 4 hours of a call with somebody just if I could help them. And when I was experiencing that like over and over again, like, helping people on call, even making YouTube videos, for example, speaking to people in real life as well when I was helping them unknowingly and naturally, I realized being of service, helping people, that's what makes me feel fulfilled. And that's also when when somebody would ask me, how do I find my mission? How do I find my purpose? I feel like that is the easiest way to find that out is what makes you feel fulfilled. What could you do for hours and hours on end, days on end, and you don't really care about the money you're getting paid for it or how long it takes you or how much energy it gives you. I even felt like a lot of the times when I was doing these, for example, mentorship calls or helping people out on call or in real life, I would get energy from it instead of like energy being taken away from me. So I feel like that was a big thing that made me realize, my mission has to be around what I'm here to do has to be around being of service, and being of service makes me feel the best I've ever felt. And I don't care about money when I'm being of service. And then through some other experiences and through the journey of me being an entrepreneur and doing inner work for myself, and getting through kind of like that phase of needing things and doing things for me or even just my family, for example. And I came to the point where I was like, okay, what do I really want to do in this world, big time, for the rest of my life. Then one day, I remember in Bali, I just woke up and I just started thinking about it for a couple hours, and I sat down with a journal and I just started writing it out. And there was that line that you just said there that I wrote down that day, and ever since then, it's what I've been working on.
And when in this video, you kind of laid out a plan for how you aim to do that. But really, the two words I wanted to pick out were, how everyone can realize and fulfill their true purpose,
Yep.
right? So, in practice, let's say 30 years down the line, you've achieved your goals, it looks the way it looked in your head. What does that look like in practice? Everyone realizing and achieving, fulfilling their purpose.
I think it comes down to having the journey that I've had in a much more accessible, easier way, not needing to have it, being lonely while doing it. That's honestly one of the biggest things is you're not lonely on this path of realizing your potential, realizing your purpose, what your mission is, and then also as well when you actually realize that you have the tools for that to become quite simple to do. If that makes sense. Like for me right now, it's in no way simple for me to complete my mission and my purpose. And I feel like the world has been designed that way by whoever, who you can call it whatever, the Matrix or just whatever you want to call it. They've, designed the world and how we go through life, university, school, career, all that kind of stuff, so that it makes it so hard for us to even first to begin with realize our true purpose because we're given the purpose. The average person's purpose is just to be happy and be comfortable and be okay. If that makes sense, just survive and just have enough to be all right in life. And that's obviously, that's when the career comes in. That becomes your purpose to progress in your career and to move up in your career. And then to obviously to have a family, and that family becomes your whole purpose. And I'm not trying to say anything wrong with that at all. I just know that that isn't our true purpose. That's just a consequence or a byproduct of our true purpose. That's what will happen anyway. So, yeah, I feel like in 30 years or so, when I complete this mission, and when it happens, the average person, I always go back to this kind of like when I was in the beginning as well, thinking about who I was, a 15-year-old, 14-year-old, even 13-year-old kid, girl or boy, can, for example, one of the goals that I have is to be one of the first ever, the first ever billionaire that has documented his entire journey in the most transparent way. Everything that I will ever do and I have ever done has been documented. I've shown exactly how I'm doing everything. I'm not held anything back or hide anything. And when that happens, the way that I'm going to plan to do it, and obviously the way that I will do it in the future, that you can watch it back, I guess. You can be a 13-year-old. Obviously, you hear my name, you hear me being talked about, you look into me, maybe watch a couple of my videos, whatever the format is going to be in 30 years. And you can see that this guy, when he was my age, or 15-year-old, when he was my age, 16, 17, he was just like me. He's nothing different. Like he's not some far-fetched, guy. Like, for example, if we think about Elon Musk, you don't relate to anything about Elon Musk. You don't know nothing about him. So these guys like Elon Musk, the richest man in the world, you can't relate to them. You can't think that you can ever be like them. But I want to be the kind of, that's why becoming a billionaire is a really important thing in this mission, is because that billionaire status, I guess, is and really actually being a billionaire that has billions, not just like worth billions. That for me is like you're taken really seriously. Like I mean, when a kid hears that word, they're like, "Wow, a billionaire? That's like almost like an astronaut," in a sense, So that's why for me a billionaire, it's not really because I want to be a billionaire. I really care. 100 millions or billions doesn't make a difference on your lifestyle. But what I know that it will make a difference for is the mission. And if I get there and I've done it, in the way that I want to do it, especially following this path, it's a path that I know that anybody could follow. It's not like I'm going to start some massive tech startup that nobody else can do as the next Uber or something. Maybe, it may happen, but that's not what I need to do in order to get to where I want to be. That's the plan that I have to become a billionaire, which is on my YouTube channel. It doesn't include starting a massive tech startup that then becomes a $10 million startup. It could happen. It would love to happen. But the plan that I have is one that starts with something as simple as starting an agency and then using that as your tool or your vehicle to break into an industry. And then from there, you progress from there. So anybody can follow this path that I'm going to follow from now on, which is what I think has never been possible. There's never been a path anyone can follow that a billionaire has created that you could follow as well, especially as a beginner, like a 15-year-old. And that's kind of what I want to create. I want to create so that the scenario could be for millions and millions and millions, maybe even billions of teenagers in the world. They see that this guy has done this, and I can see how he's done it in every aspect. Every single aspect of how he's become, especially with the business, but also as well my mindset and spirituality. Everything that we talk about here, I'm going to talk about deeply how I learned about all of it and how I got to where I am and how will get to where I'm going to be. And yeah, it's almost like there's never been a clearer path in the world to first, obviously, going through those evolutions of missions for yourself, giving yourself the life you want, then your family, then your future family. When that, giving yourself all of that first, and then from there, purpose-wise, realizing what your purpose is and how I did that for myself, and then teaching how to do it for yourself, and actually being able to do that. Maybe I'm 22. You may think it's cool for me to be at the state of life at 22, but then I think when I complete my mission, there'll be 15-year-olds with the same mindset, and that's kind of what I want to create. And obviously, when that happens, the world goes through a massive shift. What the world turns into, and obviously, like you could say it, and also as well, the power shifts back in the favor of the people, if that makes sense, rather than, for example, the puppet masters of the Matrix. And that's when almost I can imagine as well they lose all power. I really think it could happen if the majority of people in the world, especially young people, no longer even want to like remotely associate with the path of life they've created instead, and instead they go for the path of life that actually fulfills their own purpose. And no one can ever go back to the average path of life, because the way that they feel when they're fulfilling their purpose is unimaginable. I can't describe it with words. It feels so good, and you will never get that feeling with the average path of life. So yeah, I think that's the most important part of the mission, is that the path that the average person sees of life goes from whatever society's telling to do to what you feel like is right for you. And that will eventually, of course, be to fulfill your own purpose and realize what that is.
We'll dig into the billionaire stuff
Mhm.
because I want to give that some attention as well. But just before, to wrap up on the mission side of things, what would you say is the core message that you want to give across to your audience at this stage of your life? Like, like if you could say one thing to people, put it out there, what would that be?
It would have to be to honestly follow the path, follow the journey that I've gone through. And a really big important part of that is, do not put the focus on things like money, and what you may perceive as success. Real success is true fulfillment, and that fulfillment will come from you fulfilling your purpose and your mission. But the easy way to say that is you being of service. So if you focus everything you do from now on, especially as a beginner, on how do I create real value in the world? How do I be of service to people? First through a business, for example, like an agency. How do I be of service to these companies that I want to work with? How do I give value to them, and not just take from the world? If you're a giver and you're a person that wants to be of service and value is the core of everything you want to do in life, then money will come to you in big amounts when it's the right time. And also then as well, you will then realize what your purpose is. So if you go down the path of following the people that are very hedonistic and just take from the world and start businesses that don't really provide any value in the world, which there is many of them that are very easy to start in this day and age, then yeah, you'll never really experience what it is I'm talking about right now. But if you focus from the beginning, you always have in the back of your mind, I want to find a way to be of value to people, to be of service to people, and no matter what it is you do, that is always that is your main moral, I guess. That's your main compass, your north star. How can I be of more value? How can I be of more service? As you progress through your journey as an entrepreneur, as a man, you will then eventually come to the point that I'm at right now. Because that's exactly what I always had in my mind as well. When I first built my first ever proper business, which was the growth planner agency, the main thing that I had in my mind was, how do I actually be of value, not just have a business that just takes, that just takes things and does something that somebody else can do, like the SMA was. And the growth planner agency is my first ever vehicle that I could actually be of real value and change. I wasn't really much about the person's life, but the company's life. And obviously, the companies that I was working with, they would then in turn change people's lives through their products. And I kept that as like a main thing, that the only companies that I work with change lives. So value and service was always the core of everything that I did. And because of that, it's brought me to where I am in terms of the success really quickly, in terms of the fulfillment that I had, in terms of the growth that I've had, in terms of the place that I'm at right now in life and the mission that I have and the confidence I have in myself and my mission and my vision. It's all just come from the center of everything has always been, how can I be of more value? How can I be of more service? And it's brought me to where I am today.
I think that's a great message to put across, because in the end of the day, it's what you said, right? Being able to provide value and to be of service is what brings the rewards that
Mhm.
most people are looking for. So
Yeah.
instead of chasing the outcome, if you chase the income of being able to, or instead of chasing the outcome, if you live to provide the inputs
Yeah.
that will get you there, it's going to happen anyway.
Makes it inevitable. 100%. Yeah. I feel like if you're focusing on how to make money and how to not be of, and like instead you shift that to how can I be of value in the world? Like money is created by value. Money will return to you. I guess when you're giving that energy out in terms of you want to be of value, that energy will return to you in the form of money, if that makes sense. So yeah, that's the biggest shift that an entrepreneur can make. And not to say that you can't make money in the form of taking from the world. You can, of course. People, that's why a lot of people in the world have gotten a lot of money from taking. But if there's one thing that I've seen for a fact, is that everyone that takes will eventually come crashing down. No matter how much money they make, how much money per month they make, or what they do in terms of monetary success or financial success, they will always come crashing down, or at least as a minimum, every single day they'll go to sleep feeling unhappy. And I know that for a fact. So that's something that for me, I've even seen, like I said before, there was a guy that's worth hundreds of millions who still wakes up every single day with anxiety. Feels like he's having a heart attack. Even when he has a family and what everybody would normally perceive as success, a private jet, a family, a big house in LA, he still feels like that. And no matter how much money you make, it will never be enough. And you'll always keep wanting more and needing more and what's the next thing I want to do? And every time you progress and you move on to that next kind of peak or that next milestone you may have set out for yourself, if you're a taker, you will always feel depressed again. So it's going to be a never-ending cycle of just depression in different forms. So from the beginning, you can save yourself of a lifetime of trauma, a lifetime of sadness, and everything negative if you just focus in the beginning. How can I be of service? How can I be of value? And everything you do from there is that's the center of all of it.
I love that. Yeah, it's an approach,
Mhm.
right, towards life, towards what you do, and in general, it applies in so many different ways. Some ways that won't even bring you a financial return,
Yeah.
but will bring you goodwill, will bring you relationships, will bring you better energy from people.
Yeah.
Will bring you all kinds of intangibles in that sense too. And yeah, man, I think before digging into the billionaire part, which I do want to explore, um, just to say here as well what I've said to you personally in terms of I think the journey you've been on and the mindset you have at 22 is not just impressive but amazing to see, and especially to have seen the progression is super dope for me personally.
Clever.
But I'm excited to see you in 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 years time
Yeah. 100%.
because there's certain things that only time can teach you.
Mhm.
And one of those for me personally was to see the world less as a binary black and white. Either you are or you aren't. Either, you're everyone needs to have this type of goal. Everyone's going to be achieving this. Everyone's fulfilling their potential. And understand that it's not that you either are or you aren't, but there's a spectrum in the middle,
Mhm.
right? That's what I was saying to you the other day. And some people will have different ways that they want to live their life, different goals, different approaches, different upbringings. And in the end of the day, that's okay,
Yeah. 100%. 100%. Yeah. That's
you
right.
know. But to move into the billionaire part, because again, I think this is really interesting, right? Because you have a video on your plan to become a billionaire by 30, and in one comment, someone basically wrote to you saying that you're delusional. There's only 3,000 billionaires. How could you say this? And your answer was, "It is indeed delusional, G. Nothing wrong with that." So, especially the podcast being called Delusion by Design, what does delusion mean to you?
Honestly, I feel this is the same case with a lot of words in the English language. It's based on your perception of what delusion is and how, for example, let's say delusion. What is, how is delusion or the perception of what is delusional? How is that created? It's something that is in contrary or different to what society has programmed us to believe. So what we are told is achievable or easy or accessible in life, that is our spectrum of what we think is possible in terms of like what we think is even achievable physically in the world. And then you take something that is like rare, which is like, for example, the billionaire thing, or becoming a billionaire, or having that much money, or being that successful. And obviously, like we said before, the whatever you want to call it, Matrix, Puppet Masters, anything like that, they have created the world that we live in for that to be delusional, so that we don't get there. To be honest, that's why they created it like that, so that we keep in their system that they've created for us. So this idea of that being delusional is a good thing. That's honestly for me. All of your goals in life should be delusional, as at least to what an average person would call it. So if your goals aren't delusional for the average person, they're not big enough. That's something that I really think. I was told this by a guy, a really successful guy. He said to me, "What you currently probably perceive as your goals should just be tasks. They shouldn't even be perceived as goals. Your goals should be something that you can't even imagine you can achieve." And that's only then is when you're going to be shooting big enough in terms of where you want to be in life. And that is when the billionaire thing kind of kickstarted for me. I was like, okay, even though in the beginning I didn't really know about how I become a billionaire. Now, to be honest, I can say honestly, for me, it's more of a task. It's not much of a goal anymore. It's more of a target that I know I'll hit. Like I said in that video, I walked through the entire plan that I have to get there, and even I can go even deeper into the plan that I put in that video. But I have zero doubt in my mind, zero. Like, it's not a dream for me anymore. It's just something that I know I will do, not for me, but for the mission. So being delusional is the key, honestly, in every aspect of life. Honestly, what is perceived by the average person as delusional, as this is not what we should have, is exactly what you should want, and that's what I perceive it. And obviously, this is like whenever you talk about these goals, you need to have that confidence in yourself as well. Like, oh, you will never be supported by the average person. You'll be called delusional, but don't take that as a negative. The meaning of delusional for me is empowering, and almost, So when somebody calls me delusional, I'm like, I also almost want to say thank you. So yeah, that's for me why I replied that comment, and didn't like try to argue back or anything like that. It's because, yeah, it is. Thank you.
No, I love that. And as you said, when you realize that everything around you, both physically and in terms of like societal rules that we have to follow, was once an idea in someone's mind
Mm.
that came into action and came to be, you start to realize that you as an individual have the ability to change things,
Yep.
not just for yourself, but in the world around you.
Yep.
But okay, billionaire. You've mentioned, it's part of the mission, you want to almost be this example. But why do you feel like you have to become a billionaire to achieve that?
So it comes down to mainly, obviously, so there's two sides to it, right? So there's a side of the mission when it comes to the mission being to create this shift in the world. And to be somebody who can create a shift to that degree in the world, you have to be someone that can influence, that has power in that sense. Not in powers in terms of like, I'm powerful in an egotistical sense, but more in the sense of when people think of my name, they see me as a person they should listen to. And not because of, yeah, really because of what I've done in the world, and the good that I've done in the world, and also the level of success that I've achieved. Because that is just the way it is in the world. If you listen to a guy who you don't even know anything about, you search up his name, you can't find anything about him, and he hasn't been a guy that kind of almost has a life you kind of want, then we're never going to listen to him. No matter how much I talk about this stuff on a podcast or on my videos, it's never going to really have the effect I really want it to have. But I know that, for example, let's say that, maybe, like I said, there is not really anybody in the world that I would equate myself or my future self to right now. But let's say, for example, like Elon Musk, obviously he is a guy that has a lot of influence in the world, at least to some degree. Let's say, for example, like a version of him that people even perceive as better in terms of like, what he's done in the world and how good he is and how nice he is. Let's say he started talking about this stuff, and like in a really powerful way. And that was his main message in the world and what he was trying to push. Then you would listen. You would start to second guess, like, okay, this guy's talking about this stuff. Maybe it's the truth, and you look into it a bit more. And also as well, I feel like the other side to it is, for me to make this mission a reality, for me to like, obviously, I guess in a way, combat the external pressure that I will have, or what the puppet masters or matrix will obviously try to, remove the influence that I will have eventually. The same way that we see it happening for quite a few guys in the world right now who are kind of, reaching that kind of level of influence. I will need the resources to be able to tackle it, and also as well to be able to do things in the world that I would want to do, where I would not need anybody else's support if I don't get it. So I feel like the billionaire thing, if I had billions of dollars or billions of pounds, and even, for example, for me, like even having a billion is like one of the first targets. I don't see myself as just having 1 billion. I see myself as maybe in the future being one of the richest men in the world, inshallah. So I feel like having the access to those resources will make it for me a lot more easier for this to be the case. I can myself, invest everything I have almost into making sure that every child in the world hears this, in terms of this message, that you have a purpose and you can fulfill it. And this life that you've been told by your parents, by society, by school, it's not the life you have to live if you don't want it to. And I know that there is a lot of kids in the world that were just like me when I was 17 that want to hear this stuff. And if they heard it, they'd feel so happy, and they'd align with it straight away. I know that's the case. And it's happening on a small scale now with the people that are coming to me from my YouTube channel and watching my videos. So if I can do that on the biggest scale physically possible, that is when I know that this mission can become really a reality.
Man, because I think there's, two angles to touch on that, right? There's the angle you mentioned in terms of having the resources to be able to execute what you're after. And I think there we can touch on also like what we were saying off camera in terms of the collaborative nature of the mission
Mhm.
you have, right? The fact that you embarking on bringing about this paradigm shift, thankfully, you're not the only one trying to do that.
Mhm.
So you have allies, and these allies aren't necessarily competition, aren't necessarily out to get you. It's people that can help amplify that,
Mhm.
right? So that's on the resources side. But the other thing that I thought was a little more interesting to dig into is something you said within that video. You said, in society, if you're a billionaire, people take you seriously. And you also said that you wanted to be one of the most well-known and respected entrepreneurs out there.
Yeah.
So, touching on the billionaire first, why do you think that being a billionaire will bring you more respect and admiration than being a multi-millionaire, for
Mhm.
example?
It goes back to what I said before. We're almost like, and to the average person, a billionaire is like an astronaut. It's like the first man to touch the moon. Almost. It's a thing where it's like a far fetched dream. To the average person, can never be achievable. And if a guy's achieved that, wow, it's like he's just like a foreign species in a sense. And I feel like that level of like if you, especially if you can prove in a way that has been proved before that you are there and how you've done it and how you've done that as well, then there is no in society anyway, in a way that we kind of class people in a money sense. There is no higher you can go. Even if a guy's worth 1 billion or 100 billion, they're a billionaire. So that's why for me, I know that's where I want to go. I need to go. And also, I do want it for myself too. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not gonna say it's all for the mission. It is majority is for the mission, but also I know that I would be if it was just up to me and just only for me. I would be happy at under a billion if it's like actual money that I have. So yes, going past a billion is going to sacrifice a lot of things in my life. I'm not going to have the life that maybe I would want to have, but honestly, now I've gone past that mindset. And to the average person, I wouldn't suggest that everybody would want to become a billionaire because there's just no need for it unless you feel like there's a deeper reason for it. And this deeper reason will be the only driver that will take me there. Like to be able to do those things that will get me there, and to sacrifice to maybe the lifestyle that I would have wanted to have in my 20s. Yeah, I'm gonna have to sacrifice a lot of it, if not all of it. So yeah, I feel like the billionaire thing in terms of why I know it's extremely powerful is because of what I just said there. Like I know that thinking about me, the 17-year-old version of me, I would have imagine you had a billionaire who you could watch from the beginning, and you can know exactly how he did what he did, and he is giving you advice rather than some of the people that we have right now, which is nothing against them at all, and they're all doing very good things in the world. Guys who have just done well. They just started a cool company and done reasonably well. Like you can listen to them and be influenced by them and respect them, but it's just objectively you cannot I guess have that initial respect given to somebody more than somebody who's achieved something like that in terms of becoming a billionaire, and in a very also as well the way you've done it is a very respectable way.
I hear you. And I mean, before even like responding, the other thing I wanted to dig into that was you said not only you wanted to do it by 30, which is one thing, but you said you wanted to be the first billionaire to record his whole journey up.
Mhm.
Why the first?
That again, for me, it's something that again, thinking about the 17-year-old version of me, if I had access to that, if I had access to a guy who'd done that and documented his entire journey, that for me would have been incredible. And that's what I know that for that to be a thing in the world, for a 17-year-old, 15-year-old, 13-year-old even, to be able to watch that, the drive that you would get because of how much you would relate to me and how much you would realize that you're not much different to me. Our birth was pretty much the exact same when we first started. I'm not special. I didn't start something revolutionary. You would realize that this is something you can really do, and you'd have a drive just like mine that could never be put out. You'd have a fire that can never be put out inside of you. So when it comes to the first, it's because that's the way it's going to be. There is nobody else. I am the first person to, at least that I know, of course, that has this mission and that is going to do it. And I feel like also as well, this is kind of like something that looking at to other guys that are extremely successful, I never really aligned with the idea that these guys are extremely successful, but you don't really know why. Like, there's a lot of guys some of the biggest guys on the internet right now in terms of how much they're blowing up and how much their stuff goes viral and how many times you see them a day on your Instagram or your YouTube. But you look at them and you're just like, but how did this guy get rich? And you look it up and you don't even know. You can't even really figure it out. And for example, let's say you do figure it out and it's in a way that you didn't really think it was. And you kind of not lied about it, but was kind of just like not really transparent about it fully. That for me never really aligned with who I wanted to be as an entrepreneur, and how I wanted to have my image online or my personal brand online. So yeah, when it comes to being the first, it's really just because there is nobody else that has this vision, and I hope there is. I imagine there is going to be multiple of me, of not me, but multiple of guys that have the same vision. That's going to be even more powerful. So it's not like I care about being the first too much, but I just know I will be the first. So yeah, that's really what it's about.
Yeah, man. I think this question of the first is interesting, right? Because it kind of depends on how you classify what it is that you're trying to achieve, right?
Hmm.
Because to reach the billionaire status, you know, you'll have guys like Alex Hormozy, maybe even a guy like Logan Paul or a guy like Iman Gaji, who have years of experience on you, right? And years, not only of experience, but they started years ahead of you, right? So I guess, without wanting to get into specifics, like the the question I have for you is, how do you view your relationship with the perception that you have of these guys?
I feel like it's evolved over time. Definitely in the beginning, it was much more of like a put them in a pedestal, idolize them kind of way. The more that I've grown, the more that I've become confident in myself. That's the biggest thing, honestly. The more that I become confident in myself and what I'm doing in the world and how I can do it, the more I don't see them as, I guess, the same way I used to before, as an idol or as a, maybe they're definitely inspirations in a lot of ways, 100%. But I also believe that being the first and that idea of it, the idea is that I want to be the first so that other people can see me and and then eventually become better than me in that way, you know? I don't see myself as I want to be the best, you know, the most, the only guy that's ever done it in the world. I don't want, that's exactly what I'm trying to not do. I want to document what I'm doing in a way, not just by showing that I've done it, but showing how I've done it, the extreme detail to when you can see my plan, how I think, how my mind operates, how I built what I built, then you can say to yourself when you're 15, even if 15 like I said, you can say, I can figure out a better way. And you will figure out better. Because the same way that I see a lot of guys, pretty much every guy that I see online building businesses, I see what they're doing and I put my own twist on it. I put my own, I synthesize the information in my own way. And that's what gives me the edge. And I believe that being the first and even seeing these guys for me, it's an inspiration for me to take what I want from them, I guess, in terms of like how they operate, how they do what they do, and respect. Obviously, massive respect for all of them, especially guys like Iman Gaji. My respect will always be there for a guy like that because he is also one of the guys that even like had the work that he put in was a reason as to why I got into entrepreneurship the way that I did. So it's not like I have anything against what any of these guys are doing. I just know that the way that I will do it will be my way. Not like it's better, but it'll be my way, and my way is the way of this mission to complete this mission, and not for my own sake. Like I said, I really one of these main goals for this paradigm shift to be created is that in the future, when everything is documented, a 14, 15-year-old can watch the whole journey in the way that I will obviously have it formatted in the future, and then be a you know be worth 1 billion at 25, maybe 20. So I believe it can happen in the future. Like, even to this day, there's 13-year-olds getting started in business and doing crazy things by the age of 15, 16. So as the years go on, the level of maturity will then, in terms of the age, will get lower and lower. So you could even have 10-year-olds in the future thinking about starting a business, and they can watch my content. It'll be easily accessible for anybody to watch. And yeah, you can think of yourself, if this guy become a billionaire by 30 or around then, and he's documented the whole thing, I can become a billionaire by 30 to 20, 25. And that's the whole goal, honestly.
I like it, man. I think the thing with these kinds of conversations, we could go on for hours. And I wanna to also touch on self-love a
Mhm.
little bit before we wrap up. But yesterday I was thinking a bit about, what you said about being taken seriously in society as a billionaire and being respected, right? And I was trying to, like, as a thought exercise to myself, think like, what kinds of things outside from financial success, like, okay, being a multimillionaire, sure. But what other things will bring you the kind of respect and attention that, yeah, people look for, not just yourself, but in general, right? And I came to a little list. I said people will respect you for the substance of your message, the content of your character, for the energy you bring into a room, for the value you bring to society, for the charitable acts you do with the money you have, for the stories you're able to share, for the lessons you're able to teach.
Mhm.
There are people that have done all these things and have been able to create a much bigger impact than people who have 100, 1,000x the money that they have,
Yeah.
right? So, yeah, man, again, this is not a like direct message to you, but I just think to put it out there, there are lots of ways to gain respect, attention, admiration from people. And as much as financial is a big one, I think you have a lot more to you for that to be the only one.
100%. And I also, when I say that, that idea of, becoming a billionaire is going to give me that, it's also, I think, in two ways. The one is the way that I become a billionaire is one. Obviously, the fact that people can see that, the way that I become a billionaire and how I've done it and what I do with it as well. And obviously, that is when my character and who I am and all these things you just listed to come into play. So I just believe for sure that that billionaire thing is not the main goal. It's just a goal. There, it's part of the mission. It's not actually the mission for the rest of my life either. It's just one of the things that I want to do by 30 or so. And I know that it can just like that base level of like respect and influence will be there. It can never go away in a sense. And obviously it can, physically, but the way that I will do things, it will never go away. So that is something that I've been thinking about a lot. Is there's a lot more to do with completing my mission than the billionaire thing. It's a very small part of it. Obviously, when I make videos about it and stuff, it inspires people. Like no matter there's nobody like really making videos online or talking about this idea of becoming a billionaire in this way that we're talking about it, and in the way that I break it down in the videos that I post on my YouTube. So the reason as to why I talk about it a fair amount, the way that I do on my YouTube and on, for example, in this conversation, is because to the average person, that is, if I talk about, for example, my character to the average person who hasn't really progressed much in their journey, it can't really relate to it. But that billionaire thing is like, they can relate to that as a goal. They can relate to that as like, okay, like billionaire, I kind of want to become that too. And that's why for me, it kind of it brings in people's attention to the mission in a way. And obviously, for example, in that video, for example, where I talk about my plan, I go very deep into different things and much more about my mission and my purpose than just the billionaire thing. So I feel like that's kind of what it's going to be. It's almost going to be like a hook in a sense, less of like the actual story, more of the hook. This guy's a billionaire, and then you find everything else out as well. So yeah, but I definitely believe is what you're saying. I definitely agree with it too.
100%. The only asterisk I'll add is that you don't speak about your character, you show your character.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. Yeah, definitely.
But honestly, man, last topic I wanted to touch on, just because last time we did a podcast, it was something that I think you were only kind of starting to process and realize the importance of, and now you're kind of a couple years deep into it, right? And it's come up before in terms of, yeah, like a trauma, something you've, had hold you back at times in your life. But this concept of self-love, of acceptance, of realizing you're enough, I kind of want to give you the floor to speak about that a bit and reflect a bit about your journey with it, how you view it, and yeah, like any lesson you want to share.
Yep. So when I first discovered, I guess, the concept of loving yourself and what that means was an time in my life where I had accomplished a lot of what I initially would have wanted to accomplish. I lived a life that I would want to live for a while. And I was at a point where, I was doing well. Nothing was going wrong really, but I was not really happy at all, really. And, deep down, I was not really happy. Day to day, I may have been distracted with happiness, but I was never really deep down happy. And I was also not really able to build what I really wanted to build and progress down this vision that we can talk about today. And that happened. That was the case for months. And there's also smaller things like that I realized when I actually lived my life, not just built businesses, but I lived life with friends and traveled and in social circles and just overall, even just being by myself while traveling, I was very uncomfortable. I didn't really have I wasn't myself. So for example, what one small example of this is when I would be somewhere. Obviously, I was lucky enough, obviously, to have some really good friends when I first went out in the world. When I first went to Dubai, when I turned 18, and then from there, I traveled with those friends that I met there. Went to Bali, traveled all around Europe, all around Asia, a lot of places, the US. But I was always with friends, and I never actually traveled by myself or been anywhere by myself and stayed by myself somewhere. It was either first with my parents in our house, or then with my friends in the world. So when I actually first tried to live by myself, it was almost like embarrassing. Well, I wouldn't be able to leave my room. I would feel so uncomfortable to just go outside and like do something myself. Like I'd only leave to get food and come back and nothing else. I could never like go do something myself in an activity or just go out and do something. That's the state that I was in for quite a while. And when it came to business, whenever I'd sit down to, I guess, start building what it is I wanted to build to progress down this mission, I unknowingly had like a really big fear around doing it, I guess. And I would, every time I would sit down to do it, I'd procrastinate and I could never actually get it done. So all I'd do for like months and months was just maintenance stuff. I'd just keep the businesses running and being successful, but like it would never build anything significant that I really wanted to build. That was like a really important to me anyway. I couldn't do that for almost over a year, actually, when I was 19. And when I discovered this concept for myself, the way it happened was I looked at myself in the mirror one time and I just for the first time in my life started talking to myself. I actually don't think I'd ever before that looked at myself in the mirror in my eyes and talked to my own self. And the first thing I said to myself was that I'm sorry I've never loved you. And what I realized through that experience was that I had only ever had love or acceptance for the version of me in my mind, the image of me that I wanted to be or thought I could be. So the way to break this down is that in the work sense, for example, I thought that who I am right now isn't good enough or capable of building what I want to build. But the version of me that I want to become is good enough. And I created this gap, this like not objectively not real gap between me and the version of me who I wanted to be that could do all the stuff that I want to do and live the life that I want to live. There was this gap that I created that isn't obviously, of course, real. And that gap that I created, obviously, there's no way to fill that gap. You know, there's nothing that you can do to fill that gap. So no matter what I would do, no matter what life I would live, I would never feel like I am the version of me that could do what I want to do. And when I realized for the first time that I can actually just love who I am right now, and then that will unlock the capability to then do everything I want to do and be the version I want to be with no gap in between there. I could just become like that, become that version of me now if I just accepted it, accepted me as someone who is worthy, I guess, or good enough to be that version of me. Then I could be that version straight away and then accomplish everything I want to accomplish. So it's a there's a lot to come. There's a lot in self love, and also why it would be there in my life. And I think, like you said, it had a lot to do with traumas. And I feel this is something that every entrepreneur, everybody in general, needs to like sit down and think about over time. Is what in my childhood could come up now that could affect the way that I feel about myself and the way that I live my life and the way that I operate, the way that my subconscious mind perceives the world. And one of the most probably prevalent things is this idea or concept that maybe as a child you were not really loved or accepted the way that you really wanted to, or you know wanted to be, and that was definitely the case for me. So as a child, I can't really remember any time that my parents, you know, would say to me, "I love you" for no reason, and that's not because of them, not their fault at all. In any way, I also realized as well at the same time that we are not the way we are by choice. We are the way we are because of the programming, I guess, we've received from our upbringing. Really, that the upbringing is when our subconscious mind is like almost created and like formed and matured. So through our childhood, a lot of things you may not even be at all aware of are actually controlling the way you are in such a deep and meaningful way. And yeah, so I never took any like negative emotions towards my parents about that at all. But I knew that it was something that I had to figure out for myself, and I had to give myself that love that I would never really received as a child. To then feel the way that I would want to feel, to then be able to have no friction towards being the way I want to be, if that makes sense. And it's been a journey, and I've realized deeper and deeper traumas that I didn't know were there. It started with that I had this trauma or this issue in my mind, unresolved issue where I only had love for who I could be and not who I was right now. That was the first one. And more recently, it came to this idea that I just talked about there, where I realized that actually, yeah, I've never really been loved or accepted as the boy inside of me, the kid inside of me, the child inside of me was never really accepted or loved by anybody, really, to be honest. I was never told by anybody that I was loved or they loved me or they appreciate me. And that created this kind of gap in my mind again, where it's obviously an evolution of what it was back then. Obviously, it's on a much bigger scale now in terms of the man that I want to become is a much bigger jump than what I was back then, the jump that I wanted to make back then. But it even happened very recently where I still felt like, even though I had accomplished everything that I wanted to accomplish, I still felt like the boy version of me that wasn't fully being the man version of me. And obviously, this is because I'm still quite young. Obviously, this is probably why that boy man thing was quite prevalent. I do believe that in the last couple of years, I've been thinking about that quite a lot, like becoming the man version of me, the man version of Qasim versus the boy version of me. Obviously, because my identity in terms of how I see myself was vastly created in that time period from 17 to 20, where I was a boy. Maybe successfully and business wise, I was not a boy, but internally, I was still a boy. And I obviously then missed out a lot of the experiences that maybe an average person would go through to then become a man. I don't know what they would be, but obviously I probably missed out on a few of them. Not going to university or whatever else it may have been. So yeah, there was some internal work to do in that sense. And a lot of that internal work came down to understanding how important it is to love yourself. And the biggest thing I could say towards loving yourself is that one, for you, you cannot be the way you want to be unless you think you're good enough to be that way. And I will go into in a minute like how you can actually do that day to day, and I'll tell you what I do. And also as well, when it comes to how you want to be towards others, think of it as if there's a cup inside of you, and you have to fill that cup up of love to then give love to others and be, and not even just love, just be the way you want to be to others. When it comes to, for example, being angry or impatient or not understanding things or anything negative whatsoever, and socially or towards your parents, towards your family, anything like that, the reason yes, why you experience those things, no matter what it is they do to you, is because your cup of love is not full. And it's only you that can fill that cup of love up. And you can't get that from anybody else. So even if you are in a loving relationship, and even if your relationship with your parents is really good, if you are not actively filling your own cup of love up, no matter what happens, no matter what anybody else does to you, that is when the negative reactions can come up. And especially when it comes to work, that is when the fears and I guess the lack of confidence and the lack of clarity will always be such a big part that will cause the friction towards doing the work you want to do. So yeah, I say when it comes to how I actually got around that and how I implement that day to day, this whole concept of self love, there's a very good book about this, which is pretty much goes through the story of a guy who's very successful that also went through this experience where he was at kind of rock bottom in life. Everything fell apart in his life, and then he came back to where he is now, which is obviously extremely successful through this concept of self love. It's a book that came in the very right time of life for me, and it's called "Love Yourself Like Your Life Depends on It" by a guy called Kamal Ravikant. And this is a book that kind of conceptualizes everything that I will say to you, really. But the idea in terms of a day-to-day thing you can do to fill this cup of love up for you to then be able to access this state, a beautiful state, a flow state, you could call it, to be able to work the way you want to work, to not have any fears around what it is you're doing, to be the way you want to be around your parents or anybody around you, your friends, and overall just have that character you want to have and be your true self, I guess, and discover who that is in the beginning. I would say one of the most powerful ones is in terms of a daily practice is breath work. Breath work for me is kind of like an evolution, not evolution, but kind of like a level up from meditation. Honestly, something as simple as like typing in like breath work online on YouTube, guided breath work or self love breath work, something like that. Just type it up and try one after this podcast. And if you try that one, sorry, breath works like that, and you make that like a daily cornerstone of your day, as in like you do that as a habit, then that is for me the easiest and most powerful way to get that cup of love to be filled, if that makes sense. I don't know exactly what it does scientifically, but it does release some sort of chemicals in your brain. And it puts you in a state of gratitude and love, if that makes sense. And those two states are the most powerful states you can be in, or most powerful feelings you can feel, both gratitude and love for anything, for yourself, for your life, the path you're on, for anything. To then access that state. And what I'm talking about with that state is the state that you want to be in. To everything in your life is easy. It flows. Your work, coming up with ideas, building your business, being the way you want to be with your friends, your family, with yourself as well. Being the way you want to be with yourself in terms of, I was finally able to, after that first kind of like understanding of self love, I was able to live by myself and fully enjoy it. I love being by myself. I didn't need to live with anybody else. I could travel by myself and go out, eat what I want to eat by myself and not have to like second guess it and all these like small little things. And that's what I'd say is like the most simple one is breath work. The other ones, other than that, I say that the most powerful one, honestly, as well, like in a long term basis, is just actually being the way you want to be. And defending that first. There's a video on my YouTube channel where I go through this whole process that I went through one time, that changed my life, where I define the dream version of me, in every aspect, how he thinks, how he acts, how he operates, his habits, his routines, how he talks to other people, everything like that. I define what that is on a sheet of paper, and I remind myself of that every single morning, and I read it out to myself. And if I actually be that way and I do the things that I would say that he would do, the version of me, then of course I just become him. I become that version of me. And if you're becoming that version of you, you're of course then accomplishing things you want to accomplish. Maybe even something as small as going to the gym, as going for a walk, as playing a sport that you enjoy playing. these things all compound and make you feel the way like if you feel powerful, you feel like you are the man, you feel like you are you know, the best version of you. And that is one of the most like powerful feelings you can have in life. And that is more of like an ongoing thing that you can do every single day, just like to have that in your back of your mind. Who do I want to be and how can I be like that today? And be more intentional about that. And if you aren't like that way, reflect on that so you're accountable with yourself. That doesn't continue for the following days. And that for me as well is just that that's obviously what we're trying to get to. We're trying to get to the point where we're just being the way we want to be with no friction, no fear, nothing holding you back. And loving yourself is being that way, is being who you want to be. And that will always progress as well. You'll never just be the way you want to be, and that's who you are for the rest of your life. You'll always want to become better and better and better. And the whole idea is that you do this process again and again and again. Like it's happened for me. It had happened for me when we first talked. Going from obviously the very very childish boyish version of myself who can even live somewhere by himself and feel comfortable, to then obviously moving past that, and now it's going from the boy version of myself who is kind of like scared about accomplishing the things that I want to accomplish and do in the world, to then who I am now after a few experiences, to then feeling like I have complete confidence in it and like I have nothing holding me back from doing it, and I have nothing holding me back from being the version of me that I know I need to be to then accomplish those things. So yeah.
I love it, man. Yeah. I feel like you touched on literally everything, you know? I'll just highlight the point you made on reflection,
Mhm.
as well as the conversation we had the other day. I think it's something that people as a whole definitely don't do enough of. You know,
No,
actually stop to analyze what is going on in their lives, why things happen the way they did, what lessons they can take from it, and, you know, how to move forward there.
100%.
Just before we start wrapping up, quick fire. So brief answers. You know, you've lived in different places in Southeast Asia. You've lived in Dubai for a while. You've traveled a lot of the world. What does traveling mean to you? And yeah, like how much value do you give to being in different parts and physically moving yourself to different areas of the world?
I think it's a key aspect of being leveling up, I guess you could say is easy way to say it. Like obviously the first leveling up is escaping your current environment, you know, that you've grown up in, and then moving to different country, see different people, seeing how they live, different cultures, different ways of thinking, different perspectives. Um, that for me is why it's been so powerful. Is that when I went to Dubai for the first time, it was shifting my perspective and my whole world view on being successful and money and business. And then going to Bali, it did the same thing again with spirituality, with my inner world, my inner work. And that's I couldn't have had that at home or Dubai or Bali by itself. So all these different places had their own parts to play in me having these perspective shifts and going through this work, I guess, in a sense, both with the business first and money, and then with my spirituality and my inner world. And they both played massive parts in why I'm here today.
Love that. And during that time, you know, you met a lot of people doing well for themselves when you were young. Some of those guys you're still friends with and, you know, are some of the people you're closest to. Others are no longer in your life. So, how do you look back at some of the people you met as you were coming up and, yeah, the relationships you formed back then when you were younger?
I mean, I'm extremely grateful for anybody that appreciated me, you know, back then, because I feel like even though I was, I guess, to the average person, quite successful and maybe cool, for me, I was, you know, I was a child. You know, I was really immature, and not developed in a lot of senses. So anyone that did appreciate me and give me love back then, I will always be eternally grateful for. But also as well, you do meet people that you don't always, you know, don't always become friends for life, and you kind of just move on from. And the more you grow, the more you kind of like develop your own sense of morals, what you think is right and wrong, and what you appreciate, and what you perceive as a good friend or a good person. And also as well, I've really learned to something really important when you kind of level up in life, is to protect your energy. And your energy, when I say energy, I really mean it's hard to really put it into words, but when you're around certain people, they give you energy and they give you inspiration, they give you motivation, they give you happiness and good feelings. When you're around other people, they may take that away from you. They may give you negative energy. They may complain. They may always be negative. They may just kind of not have the same worldview as you do, and you're not able to be your true self around them. And that's something that I really learned to be really good at, better at. Obviously, I'm getting better at it every day to protect my energy as much as possible. So I'm really happy having no friends. If that's obviously comes big time down to the self love journey that I've been through. But I know that the friends that I now do keep all have a massive benefit in terms of they give me that energy that makes me feel that makes me be the best version of me. And it's not always to do with they have to make money or they have to be successful. It's just to do with them as their character and where they are in their lives, as their journey in their inner world or their mindset. And yeah, I feel like I have let go of quite a few people, but I've also kept people that have always supported me and been there for me and given me that energy, and I've been able to share experiences with that have turned me into the best version of me that I am today.
And, if you think back to a version of yourself from the past that was going through a tough time, whenever that was, you can share if you want, or not. What advice would you have for that past version of yourself that was struggling back then?
I think the most powerful advice that I or anybody could receive is understanding and feeling that you can give yourself the love that you are craving and that you want. Most of the time, as to why we go through negative times in our life is because we feel this lack of acceptance or lack of appreciation or lack of love, even from coming from our childhood, and that's why we don't even know we crave it. And we don't even know that we're craving that. So yeah, I would say to if it was a younger version of me to really um, go through the journey that I went through quicker, and then just in a sense for that self love journey, and understand what self love is, and the concept of loving yourself, why it's so important, and make those practices that I talked about a daily thing. So, for example, the breath work, something as small as that, doing that once a day can have a massive effect on the way you are and the way you do everything you do, which then has a massive effect on you actually being a version of you you want to be, which then has a massive effect on you actually overall being very happy and fulfilled in life. So, yeah, I would say that no matter what situation I was in, it was always something somewhat to do with me not feeling good about myself or me not feeling I'm good enough to do what I want to do or to have what I want to have. And that is just never the truth. Whatever you want to have, whatever dreams you are having, has been given to you because God wants it for you. So you not listening to that and knowing that you can have it, and then obviously taking the actions towards having that is almost you like not listening to God and choosing to not listen to Him in a sense. So yeah, I would say that is the most powerful advice I can give. And also as well, I would say something that I've been thinking about a lot recently is that the most powerful form of prayer, obviously people when they're in negative times go to prayer and go to asking for help, I guess. One of the most powerful quotes or lines is that the most powerful form of prayer is action. There's no more powerful form of thanking God or praying to God than you just doing things. And if it's meant for you, He will give the outcome you want. If it's not meant for you, then you won't get it. That's something that for me is always has been recently a very important line that I keep saying to myself is that if there's no point in just sitting there praying for no reason, if I'm not going to take action, because then I have no trust in God nor myself. So yeah, no matter what situation you're in, just start taking action on something. Going to the gym, starting with your work. And also as well, don't see work as work to change your perception towards what it is you do in life. Like we're lucky enough, especially if you're trying to be an entrepreneur, you are an entrepreneur. What we do is not work, especially with the perception that most people have about work. It's creation. I would definitely want people to see their work or what they're doing day to day if they're building their business and fulfilling their purpose and doing things that they're passionate about, not as work but instead they're creating every single day. And if you shift your perception on what it is you're doing day to day, and obviously that perception to begin with was negative, and you shift it to a positive thing, then it becomes a lot less friction. It becomes a lot less friction towards doing it. And obviously then as well, when you have the same mindset when it comes to seeing this creation as or this action as actually you thanking God and you praying to God in a way because you like it's the most powerful form of that because you're actually just doing it instead of just asking for it, and hoping you receive it. That for me is something that would definitely push me through a lot of negative times that I've been through where I just didn't do work. I just sat there for days and days, procrastinated, watched stuff on my phone and did nothing. If somebody came to me and told me that, I would definitely second guess what I was doing and realize, okay, the only way to get back to the point of taking action the way I want to is to start doing it. And that is the most powerful form of prayer or like help that I could ask for.
That's a powerful one, man. And, in the end of the day, I think to live through life and at least not even try to be the hero in your own
Mhm.
story is, yeah, if not sad, at least not ideal.
Yeah, it's a disservice to yourself. That's what it really is.
That's a good way to put it.
100%.
Exactly that. It's a disservice to yourself. And so a prerequisite to being the hero of your own story is at least loving the hero in the story.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, 100%. And you also have to realize as well that the hero is who you are right now. There's no gap. There's no place you have to get to be that hero. Like you are that hero now, and that hero is what will get everything you want to have. It's not like the hero can only have those things, and that hero is some far-fetched idea of a version of you that you can want to be in the future that you have to get to. You are that right now. And that's one of the biggest like advices that I've been given as well by a good friend of mine, is that when I was in not so good a point in my life, I asked him, there's a version of me that I want to be, and I just haven't been able to be that version of me yet. And he said to me, "What if you just forgot all of that and you just realized that version of you is you?" And I had no answer. I was like, "Yeah, actually, yeah. You know what? There's nothing I can really argue. There's no way I can argue that. If I wanted to be that, I can be that way now. What is actually objectively stopping me from being that way of me? Just me, just what's going on in my mind." So yeah, that's something that honestly one of the most powerful, I guess, things you can do, exercises you can do, is think to yourself, what is the dream version of me, and what is the when I see myself as the peak of me, the best version of me in every single sense of your life, aspect of your life, define that in extreme detail. And then the most powerful thing you can do is every single day not work towards being that, but just be that. There's nothing to work towards. There's no work to do. You can just look at everything that you've written down in the sheet of who you are and who you want to be, and then just be that like that. And people put so much like in between that. They create this massive gap that, they can only get there when they make a certain amount of money, or when they live a certain life, or move out of their hometown. But all of that is just, what I've realized, is just BS. It's just, so you're just making up in your head to keep you back, keep you the way you are, because obviously that is what's comfortable to you, and being the way you want to be is uncomfortable. And of course, as well, like realizing that whatever feels uncomfortable is what you need to be experiencing. Like if it feels uncomfortable, that is when you know you need to do it. If it feels weird and you feel a bit scared, that's when you know you need to do it. You should have no fears in life. Like I've come to a point now where I have no fears in life. I'm not even scared of dying anymore. And that is a very important point to get to, especially as an entrepreneur. You cannot be controlled by your fears. Even something as small, something really, really small. You should have no fears in your life. And the way you get there is by realizing that fears are solely just made up in your mind. And when you come to terms with, or you understand what the actual outcome could be, even if it's negative, and you accept it and you're okay with it, that's when the fear just goes. And obviously, the most deepest fear you could have is the fear of dying. And when you no longer have a fear of dying because you accept why it would buy you if you were taken, but and you go back to God, see it as, instead of you losing everything, as you getting everything. You're going, returning back to God. That's one of the most beautiful things about Islam as well, that I feel, is when somebody dies, it's not like they've passed away and they're gone now, we've lost them, or it's a big sad thing. It's more of they finally return to God. God's brought them back to them. That's the way that, for me, when I started to get into Islam properly, and learn everything, when I saw that was the way that people perceive death, then that was for me like, where's the negative emotion about that? Why do you feel negative about that? That's all. And when you remove the fear of death, all the other fears kind of just dissipate, and just go away. And when you live your life with no fears, that is when you can accomplish anything. Like I said, we are God gives us almost our plan. He tells us our plan through our visions, our ideas, our plans, our inner minds, our dreams, all these things, all our thoughts as well. And so, if you're having a thought, or you're having an idea, or you're having a dream about being successful or doing something in your life, then it's God telling you that you are right, that this is meant for you. So the only thing stopping you from getting there is just these fears that you have created in your mind that aren't actually real. And if you get to that point where you realize they're not real, and work through them, then yeah, you can accomplish anything you want in life.
Yeah, man. No, I think it was, powerful messages at the end. And one thing that on the way here today I was thinking about to share as well towards the end is, the lesson from yesterday where, we sat down to record this in a lobby in an accommodation, right? Didn't ask for permission, eventually got kicked out. And, you know, thankfully everything was in order to be able to make it here today and make this happen and have an amazing conversation. But sometimes you make plans and shit doesn't go to plan.
Yeah.
And, I'm grateful for the fact that I had a big wake up call in that sense when I was young. I was 18, didn't get into the uni I wanted to, started having health issues, and, you know, the world didn't look as rosy as it once did. And learning that lesson young, and learning that sometimes you need to pivot. Sometimes the plans you had are not going to be able to be done. Sometimes a pandemic comes around the world and no one knows what's going on. These kinds of things, and, being fluid and being able to adapt and being able to respond rather than react, I think is, an important one.
Yeah,
So
100%. And that's why I feel like I put such an importance on filling that cup of love up inside of you. Because when that cup of love is full, it's almost like you're in a state of just gratitude. No matter what happens in your life, no matter how bad it gets, you're just like, it's fine. I'm grateful for the fact that I'm even alive, or I'm able to actually do this first stuff in the first place, and for it to fail. So that for me is why, no matter in terms of the best advice I could give you is to understand what that means, and feel that for the first time. Because when you feel that for the first time, you feel what it's like to have your cup of love up. I guess fill that cup of love up for yourself, and for you to just be in that state, you'll never want to go back, and you'll always want to return to that state every single day when you wake up. And that's when things like breath work or whatever else you want to do can come into play, and like make sure that no matter what happens, you're never in this state where you can be angry or be annoyed or be, in any way negative, or complain, because you just, yeah, it's fine. If, and also as well, it comes into the really big lesson of look for the lesson God is trying to teach you in everything, and everything happens for a reason. Those two things are kind of combined, where everything that happens in your life, no matter how bad it is, even something as bad as your parent passing away or a sibling passing away, it never should be perceived as negative, in my opinion. It should always be perceived as, okay, what can I be grateful for here? It could be a lesson, it could be an experience, it could be something that you can then now fill the shoes of, that I can now do differently from now on. But there's always a lesson, and there's always something you can take away to be a better version of you. So every experience you go through, there's also going back to the concept of everyone has a plan written for them by God. Parts of that plan may be very negative, as you may perceive it, but the idea of that plan is to turn you into the best version of you, to then be able to actually then fulfill your purpose in a way that have been chosen to. So without those things that you go through, the negative things, no matter how negative they are, you'll never be able to actually be the version of you that can fulfill the mission unless you went through those things. So never look back on anything that you've gone through with regret or with negativity or judgment, because those are the things that will hold you back, and never allow you to actually fulfill your mission and purpose in life.
Extremely well put. And yeah, bro, it's what I told you towards the start. You're someone that I watched at a very young age when I was starting out, around the same time, to have had the chance a couple years back to sit down and see how far you've gone, and now to be able to run it again and, yeah, see where you're at and see the direction you're going in is something I value a lot, I appreciate a lot.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks, sir.
And yeah, man, I'm excited for 2, 3, 4 years down the line, as we said, to be able to run it back up again. And
eventually in around 10 years, we'll do it when I'm a billionaire. And when all this mission, everything we talked about today is a reality, then yeah, it's gonna be exciting to do it again, man.
The invite is there.
Has to, bro.
With that being said, if you want to watch someone else's story, where Josh has been able to become a thought leader, editing expert who teaches other people how to do the same as him, you can check out the full episode with Josh right here.